Hey, how's it going, everybody? So first off, I just want to say we're talking about visibility and LLMs. Also, if I'm not looking at the cameras because I'm the PowerPoint's on the other screen. Everyone's trying to figure this out. So if you have questions, first off, I'm an old teacher, so interrupt me. I'm kind of used to it. That's totally fine. Also, everyone's trying to figure this out. And I feel like if you don't know something or you have a question about something, just go for it because we're all figuring it out. And there's no way to figure this out. If anyone's like, oh, I have all the answers, that's not what's happening right now. The whole ecosystem is shifting. We'll talk about it. So please, please, please don't feel like, oh, I can't ask whatever you want. There are no silly questions. I promise. With that, let's talk about winning visibility in the age of LLMs. And that's such a funny way to put it because it is so complicated and it is so nuanced. I'm going to start off with, well, first off, I'm Morty Oberson, the founder of Unified Brand Marketing. I used to be head of comms at SEMrush, and I'm currently a comms consultant at SEMrush, but you all know who I am already because of the great intro. Let's skip that, and let's get into the whole question of, is it SEO, is it GEO, is it AEO, and why do we have to use all these acronyms? I swear. There's a big conversation in the SEO space right now is optimizing for LLMs, or generative engine optimization, or answer engine optimization. Let's call it optimizing for LLMs. Is it the same thing as SEO? And SEOs are fighting back and forth about this. And you'll probably see a lot of social media or articles about, oh, this whole thing, no, it's not. Oh, yes, it is. It's all the same. No, it's totally different. This is the same fight, in my opinion, that SEOs have been doing for a long time, just with different acronyms and different names. I'll give you an example of what I mean. And it all kind of speaks, by the way, and I forgive me for saying this, but a lot of times, SEOs can't see the forest from the trees. And in general, that's problematic. It's been problematic in the past. I'll give you an example of where it's been problematic in the past, but it's really problematic right now in terms of how you're thinking about LLMs or how SEOs in particular are thinking about LLMs. Some SEOs. I don't want to generalize everybody. The example I'm going to give you is EAT, which if you're not familiar with is called Experience, Expertise, Authoritativeness, and Trustworthiness. And this is from Google's Quality Rater Guidelines. So Google has these raters who go around rating websites, like manual people who go and look like, that's a good website. I'm oversimplifying this. And then Google tries to match that up and to see whether or not that aligns with what they're doing in the algorithm or not. Like if we said this page was great in the algorithm, but the actual rater saying it's horrible, maybe we have a problem. Again, really oversimplifying this. SEOs were debating whether or not this was part of the algorithm, whether or not it's not part of the algorithm. Was Google actually looking at this? What does it mean? What is EAT? How do you do it? Blah, 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 blah. And they were fighting for years about whether or not it's even important. And then if it is important, what is it? And SEOs do what SEOs do. They just boil it down to a checklist. And I'm saying this, someone come from the SEO industry, so I feel like I can say this about SEOs. It's about having the right author, or it's having a byline for your article, or it's having somebody editorial reviews. If you go to a health website, so-and-so with a bunch of credentials at the end of it, BSN, RSN, doctor, whatever. It's about having all those credentials and a review at the end of it, blah, 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 or as Barry Schwartz would say, yada, yada, yada. Okay, in reality, that's not what experience, expertise, authoritativeness, or trust, let's break it down, let's boil it down. That's not what trustworthy, authoritative content is. What it really is unconscious latent signals and positioning. And I'll give you an example of what I actually mean here. This is a website. This is a screenshot of a website called Wiz, which if you don't know what it is, I didn't know what it was. Although when I was at Wix, people were congratulating me for being bought out by Google. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. We didn't get that's Wiz. We're Wix. Two different things. Turns out they're a cloud security firm that got bought out by Google, which is the only reason I know who the heck they actually are. And it was funny because I'm like, that's interesting that they're going with this sort of positioning and this sort of signaling. And I ran a little impromptu survey. I talked to a lot of people and everyone I was talking to, I'm like, hey, you ever hear of Wiz? And I'm like, nope. So I said, okay, great. Look at this website and tell me, who do you think they're for? And everybody answered small businesses, mid-market businesses, SMEs. No one answered back. They're for enterprise level Fortune 500 companies, which is what this company is for. In fact, on the top of their homepage, there's something like half of all Fortune 500 companies use them, which is why Google bought them out. And there's a whole reason why they went with this visual language, which doesn't actually work. That's actual, in this case, lack of authority. right? That's what real authority and trustworthiness is. It's all of the latent signals that you're sending. In this case, the latent signal that the whole design of the website is sending is, we're not for big websites, we're for small websites, which does the total opposite of what they wanted to do. That's real EAT, not this stuff. Yeah, but SEOs, again, have a hard time sometimes seeing the forest for the trees. It's particularly noticeable with LLMs. There is an enormous gap between LLMs and search engines, and what LLMs are trying to do and what search engines are trying to do. And noticing that gap is super important. But the problem is that there are also overlaps and similarities. I'm going to try to explain where the overlap and similarity comes from as quickly as I possibly can. And again, I just want to say something. This is my opinion. If you ask other people about this, they would give you a different opinion because everyone's still trying to figure this out. So this is my opinion on why I think SEO overlaps with optimizing for LLMs. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, Google said, we only look at pages. We don't look at sites. Or maybe SEO said that. Who knows if Google actually even said that or not. It just matters about what's on the page. What's on the rest of the site doesn't matter. Now, but for years and years and years, Google was saying that when they look at the quality of the website, they're looking at the entire domain, the entire website, which when you think about it conceptually makes sense. If you're going to, as a user, and Google's recommending you to go to a website by ranking you, and then you go to another page, if that page is horrible, it's going to look bad on Google. So quality being a whole website thing really makes sense. Google officially confirmed this to the point where no SEO could even deny this as much as they wanted to. When they said, yeah, quality is a site level signal when they announced the helpful content update, which is a type of algorithm update that no longer exists. It's now how they determine helpfulness and quality is sort of like baked into the core algorithm. What you would do for a website in order to make sure the entire website was looked at as being quality by Google kind of aligns to what you would do to get an LLM to think that you're quality and you should be listed in the LLM's output. And that's where the overlap exists. It's very similar. If I'm trying to build up authority, I'm trying to build up quality, that process will look very similar for a website. Trying to rank in a search engine, it'll look very similar to a brand trying to get into an LLM. But it's different. Because there's an overlap doesn't mean that it's not different. LLMs are far more encompassing. They're taking a much broader and a much wider lens look at the web than a search engine is at a website. Okay? How do I know that? Outside of the fact that makes it total intuitive sense, Google's looking at the website, the pages on the website, the topic, the vertical. LLMs are looking at the whole web. It's how they function. They're looking at whatever is in their data set, as much as the web as they possibly can get their hands on. And they're trying to assimilate, interconnect all of it. And the output is, okay, here's what we saw across the web. Here's the output. It's a much broader lens than what a search engine is doing to rank a website. But I'll give you data on this. This is coming from the SEMrush AI toolkit. Let me explain what you're looking at because it's freaking bonkers. This is the sports gambling niche. This is some of the biggest names in sports gambling. If you're a sports fan, you'll recognize the names. If you don't, it doesn't really matter. This is their market share plotted against sentiment in SearchGPT, Perplexity, ChatGPT, and Gemini. Let me make a distinction. Not all LLMs are the same. Certain LLMs rely more on the citation. So, for example, Perplexity or SearchGPT. Like, how is SearchGPT different than ChatGPT? SearchGPT is looking at the web, pulling in the links. When it gives the output, it's relying on the things that it's citing for its output. Perplexity is very similar. It's taking a look at when it's pulling the retrieval, it's pulling citations from the web, and it's basing the output, the little summary, more on the links that it's citing than an output like ChatGPT. When you ever go to ChatGPT, I don't usually get a link until I've entered like 5 prompts in. Like I'm really like getting into the topic, then eventually I get a link. ChatGPT is taking a much broader, much wider look than, let's say, SearchGPT is. And you see that in the data. If you look on the left-hand side, look at the blue circle. It has a market share of around 15 in both SearchGPT and in Perplexity. And it has a sentiment score, like how positive is the sentiment around like the things that the LLM is saying, the AI is saying. It has a sentiment score of around 65 in Search GPT and around 45, 50 in Perplexity. It's right in the middle of the pack. If you look at Chat GPT and Google's Gemini, all of a sudden it falls way, 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 way to the back of the pack, both in terms of market share and in terms of the sentiment, what the LLM is saying about it. Why? Because it's a different type of LLM. ChatGPT is taking a much broader and much wider look. It's not relying on citation. It's not looking at the citation, the things that it's citing. It's not even citing anything. And it's basing what it's saying, how often it's saying it about a brand, and the sentiment it's sharing about a brand on a much wider lens, on the much wider, broader web than, let's say, something like Search GPT, which is relying on the web content that it's pulling in and citing. So you can see how different LLMs, ones that are more based on what's immediately happening on the web and what's happening on the wider web, relating to the same brands differently. That's how I know. That was really complicated. What I'm trying to say is, to quote Rocky IV, my favorite montage from like all movies possible, there's no easy way out. There's no shortcut home. If you took the word optimize, you threw it out of a building, you lit it on fire on the way down, it smashed into a million pieces, and then a building fell on it, I wouldn't be upset. Like, thinking about it like optimizing for LLM, it's such the wrong way to think, in my opinion. And it's kind of why you see SEOs talking about brand this and brand that. I just reading an article from Search Engine Land that I think it was like the Daily Mail was talking about, well, yeah, we're losing traffic to Google's AI overviews. You should focus on brand. And there's somebody who's built brands before and has built brands right now. There's a lot of talk about brands, but there's not a lot of like, okay, what does that actually mean? And then the 5 seconds after people talk about, yeah, you need to build up your brand. Now here's 5 tips to optimize on LLMs. And that's where like my brain hits the inside of my skull and splatters. Because you're talking about something very holistic, and then all of a sudden 5 seconds later, you're talking about, yeah, here's 5 tips to optimize. That doesn't align. That doesn't sound right there. The truth is that LLMs are like moths. They are attracted to whatever has the widest and biggest digital presence. Search engines are the same way, but again, it's much different, much broader, and much wider lens angle when you're talking about an LLM. So SEOs will say, do this. Digital PRs are coming. Oh, you need to have mentions and citations across the web. So LLMs will list you and cite you. So digital PR people will say this. Content marketers will say that. It's all of it. It's none of it and it's all of it at the same time. It's everything. It's your entire digital presence. It's not SEO or links or it is your entire web presence. It's your entire brand's presence across the internet, which is like, okay, how do you optimize for that? The answer is no, you don't optimize for that. You have to build up that brand and that presence. And I want to like really quickly talk about what that actually looks like. It's a much wider, much longer conversation, but I just want to offer you something. I don't want to be one of these people saying, yeah, build up your brand, build up the brand, and then not actually tell you how to do that. I'm going to offer you 6 tips, and I'm going to try to use no jargon whatsoever. And if I use jargon, you can like, please interrupt me and say, hey, you just used jargon. If you want to build up your brand and you want to develop the momentum that you're going to need, which I'll talk about and show you what that looks like in a minute to get into an LLM and get visible in an LLM the right way, the first thing you need to do is figure out who you are. Because imagine someone asks you on the street, hey, who are you? And you start stumbling, when you don't know who your brand is, that's literally what you're doing. You have to figure, and by the way, it's like almost like having a therapy session with your own brand. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why is it meaningful? What are you trying to be? What are you not right now that you would like to be? And what's scary? But the biggest question you can ask yourself is what scares you about that? Because usually it means pivoting and changing and adopting and being something a little bit different. And that's scary. And you need to identify what's scary about that or you won't do it. Now that you know who you are, you know who you're for, right? If I'm all about, I don't know, sports, just use a really broad example. People who don't give a crap about sports are not going to give a crap about me. So why are you even bothering to target them? That makes no sense. And I know that sounds obvious, but brands do this all the time. They target audiences that aren't relevant because they don't really know who they are. The real genuine audience targeting, I guess that's a buzzword or jargon, the real way you start picking an audience is by first knowing who you are and saying, hey, who's naturally interested in that? And that's where a real quote unquote audience targeting begins. The next thing is to ask what problems do your users actually have, do people actually have? And that doesn't mean USPs. I'm using that's jargon. But I'm using the jargon to show you that you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't focus on like the pain points or the unique selling propositions. I'm literally just asking you to ask yourself, what problems does your audience have in their lives? Not specifically around the product that you sell or the service that you offer. I'll give you minivans. As somebody with 4 children, I don't know why minivan brands don't do this. They market it as, we're sporty. I am 41 years old. I am not cool. I will never be cool again. And I don't care about being sporty. I just care about getting my stuff done. If I was selling minivans, the audience problems that I'm just using myself as that I have is I don't have a lot of time. I have to schlep my kids all over the place. And the really annoying part of it, if you're a parent, they don't even appreciate it. So I'm doing all these things and all the kids can do is complain about it. That's my life context. I am not talking about pain points or I'm just talking what's going on kind of around the product in my user and my audience's life. Great. Now that you know what the problems are, how do you fit into that? How do you solve that? Now you're really talking about, okay, like more like positioning and pain points. That's more jargoning. Sorry. But you're actually like diving in. How do you fit that need? Oh, hey, yeah, Mr. Person trying to schlep their kids around and don't appreciate it. We've designed a minivan that actually appreciates you by thinking about you and offering you blah, 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 whatever it is. Once you know how you fit into your audience's life and how you solve their life context problems, now you need to ask yourself, what's really important for me to share with them? What's important to me to share with them? And then, by the way, don't even try to formalize it. Don't even just spit it out. And don't even try to get it refined yet. It's not there yet. It's not even, I wouldn't even try to refine it for a week. Just mull it over. Think about it. And then after you've mulled it over and you've really digested it and you've really it's really landed for you, now you can refine it. Now you can get it sharper. It's going to take multiple rounds. It's never going to sound perfect. And by the way, it's much better if it sounds honest than it sounds perfect. We just walk through, just so you know, brand identity, audience targeting, brand positioning, and brand messaging in 6 easy steps without mentioning any of those terms. I'll give you an actual example. This is a GWR, which the logo is super confusing. They make seatbelts. Weird example. I don't know why I thought of this, but they make seatbelts. When you plug them into Google's AI mode, which is going to replace AI overs at a certain point, by the way, when you plug into AI mode, you have to be, right now it's an experiment. You have to sign up to get into it. I highly recommend you try, just Google, how do I access AI mode? And there should be a link to how to access it. When you ask which companies make seatbelts, the first one is, Autoliv, Joyson, whatever. Then it goes other notable companies. GWR Safety Systems, that's this website. I go backwards in slides, by the way. Isn't that weird? Other notable companies. That's like basically, when you say other notable companies, like saying like, I guess I would date you if you're the last person on earth. That's like the LLM equivalent of that. Other notable company. Who cares? So the brand, well, we're in the LLM. It's not just what you appear for, it's also how you appear. And you don't want to appear as other notable company. You want to be the company. And I'm going to tell you a secret. If I was this brand and I was what's my strategy here to get into the LLM and get higher up into the LLM? I wouldn't even start on digital, which I know is like heresy. You know where I would go? Where all good things go to die. Congress. I would go to Congress. I would figure out, okay, first I would start with my identity. Who are we? What are we all about? So I can give what I'm about to tell you a unique angle. Because you can't do that unless you know who you actually are. You can't do the positioning until you do the identity. I would create, if I was a seatbelt company, I would collect tons of data on user safety, trends, and technology, and whatever it is. And I would go to offline events. I would go to networking events. I would spend a lot of time in Washington, D.C. and make contacts, so I can get the context. And I would get in front of Congress and I would testify at a hearing about seatbelt safety. And I would try to get my data used in one of the reports. That's where I would start if I was this brand. which by the way, they don't do any of that at all. Like nothing. They're just like, here's our products. You say, like, oh, like that sucks. You're just gonna it's gonna go out there in Congress and it might go into a report, whatever. First off, you can repurpose all of that. You should repurpose all of that. You can take that data, turn it into a white paper, a podcast, a blog, a webinar, newsletter, whatever you want. And what will happen is, hopefully, you get into, let's play this out. You get in front of Congress, you testify about seatbelt safety, you have some really great data about it. Congress releases a report. They cite you. CNN covers it. It says in the latest, report from Congress, according to GWR, seatbelts are 75% less safe than you think they are. That's going to result in mentions, links, listicle inclusion, social inclusion. It's all about building presence and building momentum. And it's about what's starting where it makes sense for your brand, which might not be social media. As crazy as that sounds, it might be Congress. Because what I didn't show you in the first screenshot was when you search for companies that make seatbelts, there are a list of listicle sites on the side. And if GWR wants to be the top company, it needs to be in the listicles. And there's no magic potion like poof, there's some kind of like listicle fairy that says, okay, you get to be in a listicle. If you want to be in those listicles of the top seatbelt companies that the AI is going to reference, you need to get in front of Congress, you need to testify, you need to have your data used, you need to get on CNN, you need to have white papers, blogs, data studies, case studies, all sorts of information that you can repurpose for digital and keywords and all that other good stuff, so that you show up as a top seatbelt company, so that you can eventually not be the other company. You can be the top company that's listed here. So you say optimizing for LLMs, it's building an actual brand and building a web presence. And I'll show you how this actually plays out in a real example of Buffalo Wild Wings and Wingstop, which are, if you don't know what they are, they sell chicken wings in the US. I think Wingstop's also in the UK. So it's really weird. Often enough, not all the time, Buffalo Wild Wings will outperform, if you want to call it that, or out-appear or out-visible Wingstop and LLMs. So which is more famous, Buffalo Wild Wings or Wingstop? By a great optimization tip, if you want to call it that. If you want to know what LLMs think about a brand, just ask them. What do you think about Gatorade? Which is a whole thing we're going to get into, because it does not think a lot of good things about Gatorade. And neither do you, it turns out. Buffalo Wild Wings ranks. So it's used to ranking. Buffalo Wild Wings appears more authoritative or higher up, or is the more recommended thing than Wingstop and LLMs often enough. And that seems strange. Because Wingstop, by the way, is way more hot, way more famous right now, way more trendy right now, which we'll get into. Now, what's really interesting, if you look at the branded traffic, meaning when people are searching for like things like Buffalo Wild Wings near me, Buffalo Wild Wings sauce, Buffalo Wild Wings, boneless wings, all of those branded keywords and the traffic Buffalo Wild Wings gets, I want to show you something. 95% of its traffic comes for those kind of terms. And it ranks for 258,000 branded keywords, which basically means this. These kind of keywords it ranks for and brings in 95% of its traffic from these 258,000 keywords, which are basically like Buffalo Wild Wings garlic Parmesan sauce, Buffalo Wild Wings spicy garlic sauce, Buffalo Wild Wings blazing sauce. I want you to notice, by the way, how diversified these products are. It's not like it's got like it's got a gazillion different products that people are looking for and going to the website about. As opposed to Wingstop, which brings in more traffic from these keywords than Buffalo Wild Wings does, but it only has half of them. It only has 113,000 branded keywords that it's ranking for. So if we go back in the slides, Buffalo Wild Wings is 258,000, more than double the amount, which is a huge part of it. I'll get into it. And it ranks for things, or it brings in traffic for things like lemon popper wings, Wingstop Cajun wings. But if you go through the keywords people are looking for around Buffalo Wild Wings versus Wingstop's product, even though it has the same amount of products, it's not as diversified. If you go back to Buffalo Wild Wings, like tons of different products people are looking for, not as many here. It's bringing in more traffic from fewer terms. It's almost like, imagine like people are searching for like Nike shoes, Nike, wristband, Nike sports bottle, Nike, flip-flops. And people are only searching for Adidas basketball jersey. You would say Adidas has a brand problem. People aren't aware of its shoes. Like Wingstop has a little bit of a brand problem. People aren't aware of its full offering and they're not looking for it. But Wingstop ranks higher. They get more chicken wings near me. Wingstop outranks Buffalo Wild Wings. It brings in way more traffic from that keyword. But they're still not performing in the LLMs. Wingstop gets more direct traffic than Buffalo Wild. So people going to wingstop.com, which I call brand traffic. People, I know who that brand is and going right to their website. And they have a nice little uptick in their direct traffic in March, which correlates to a paid search and email campaign. So like not all is as it seems. Buffalo Wild Wings, which outperforms Wingstop in the LLMs, has less brand traffic or direct traffic, people going to buffalowildwings.com than Wingstop has to going to its website, and its direct traffic is down. That little spike you see in March, again, monkey see, monkey do, they're also doing paid search and email. All these brands copy each other. It's ridiculous. I'll give you another reason, like why is Buffalo Wild Wings outperforming Wingstop? It's crazy. Wingstop has 3,350,000 people Googling Wingstop each and every month, according to SEMrush. That's way more than Buffalo Wild Wings. I also add in BWW because people abbreviate it like Buffalo Wild Wings. So even combined, it's less. Get Buffalo Wild Wings outperforming it in LLMs. I'm going to show you why. And it goes as like, it's bonkers. It's so good. This is, according to SEMrush, the social media distribution for Buffalo Wild Wings, Chili's.com, and Wingstop. The little red bar, that's YouTube. Wingstop barely focuses on YouTube. Buffalo Wild Wings does focus on YouTube. And it pays off. Because this is not them, by the way. This is Buffalo Wild Wings' own YouTube videos. But if you type in Buffalo Wild Wings, you get a whole bunch of these. You get all of these YouTubers. I went to Buffalo Wild Wings and I tried every flavor. You get a ton of them. Endless. When you type in Wingstop, I got a CNBC video, which is really good, by the way. I watched most of it. It's really enjoyable. It's good. But that's way different than this. And even when you get to the actual product, it's not the same thing. It's not like real YouTubers. It's not the same kind of brand presence. Weird, right? Like, why does that make it? Wingstop is way more popular. Why does that make any sense? I'm going to show you why. Wingstop, which has more followers on the newer social media platforms like, I don't know, Instagram, TikTok, versus legacy platforms like Twitter and Facebook, because they're more popular. It pulls things like this. It's very like product focused, very cliche, whatever. And people comment, lots of comments. But the comments are very generic. Almost had you today. This could be me at graduation. Buffalo Wild Wings does that. And Buffalo Wild Wings gets comments like that. But they also actually do content that actually talks to you and resonates with you. Like these are like two guys who do like an all-you-can-eat challenge, whatever it is. Look at the comments here. Very well played by the team. Next time might even go for 150. Imagine calling nuggets wings, shaking my head. It's real interaction. It's real communication back. It's real communication with the user. And the comments, even though there might be less of them per post than Wingstop, the audience is far more engaged. It's a different level of engagement, a different level of communication qualitatively. And it's because Buffalo Wild Wings talks in a much, 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 much more targeted way to its audience. Right? It tells you that if I'm a sports fan, is it gonna land for me because I'm a sports fan? If you're a sports fan, it's gonna totally land for you. If not, it's still a good example. Buffalo Wild Wings communicates very clearly that if you want to get drunk, have wing sauce all over your face, and want to do that with other people who are screaming next to you with wing sauce on their face who are also drunk, they are the place for you. Down by 3. That's brilliant. Down by 3 points, but it's like down by 3 wings. That is so good. Here's what Wingstop does. Boneless meal deals, $15.99. And even when they get creative, where flavor gets its wings. Couldn't any wing brand say that? Any wing brand can say that. There's no positioning in that. It's just messaging. The closest, and it had to go back to December. The closest, I didn't tell you a point. Sorry, my mistake. Yeah, Wingstop doesn't let you sit down. There's no sit down. It's all takeout. So Wingstop is for me. Wingstop is, I don't want to be around drunk people. with sauce all over their face, screaming at a TV, watching their team lose. I want to watch my team lose on my couch by myself in my own misery with wing sauce on my face and slightly drunk. Wingstop is for me because it's only takeaway. They never say that. The closest they get to that is late night visitors having drones there. There's no positioning. It's just messaging. There's no brand positioning. They never tell you where for you if you want to be at home and not around other drunk people. They never tell you that. And there's correlation in the LLMs every single time. That's why Buffalo Wild Wing outperforms Wingstop. It resonates more with an audience. It might have less quantity of an audience. It has a far more engaged audience who's talking far more about it in far more emotional ways than Wingstop is, because it actually does emotional targeting and Wingstop does no positioning in its messaging whatsoever. You have to give the LLM context. You have to show them that you're a real thing that's a living, breathing entity that people are interested in and are engaged with. You have to give the LLM context. And that's why Buffalo Wild Wings outperforms Wingstop, even though Wingstop outperforms them in every other metric, basically. Except for like sales also. Okay, part 3. And I hope I'm going to run through this and I want to get to your questions about this. How do I do what I just did using SEMrush data, which I basically did using SEMrush data, but I'm going to actually walk you through how I did it. I'm going to use Gatorade. I'm going to show you how I isolated market trends and user concerns using Gatorade as an example, right with your SEMrush data. And by the way, this is what I literally do my brand audit. So I'm not like, oh, I'm just going to show up at a SEMrush webinar and tell you. I literally use in my brand audits. This is Gatorade's branded traffic. So this is people searching for like Gatorade water bottle, Gatorade powder, red Gatorade, blue Gatorade, and it falls off a cliff in January 2024. That could be, by the way, an SEO problem. Maybe their website had a technical problem. So what I wanted to do was contextualize it. Was it a website problem? Like maybe they no index all their pages, and that's why they don't get as much traffic for their branded keywords. Whatever it is. The answer is no. If I put Gatorade, the term Gatorade, into the keyword research tool, in May 2025, has 165,000 people searching for Gatorade, the term Gatorade, every single month. That's down from 200,000 in 2024. That's down from 200,000 in 2023. So now it makes sense that this fell off. People aren't as interested in Gatorade as they used to be. Now we have to ask ourselves, is that a Gatorade problem or is that a sports drink problem? This is Gatorade's main competitor, Powerade, which is owned by Coca-Cola. And you see the same dip at the same time, which probably means that it's an industry problem, not a Gatorade problem. And you see the same pattern here. Powerade has a search term of 33,000 searches a month in May 2025, which is way less than Gatorade. Gatorade owns this niche, but it doesn't really. You'll see in a minute. That's down from 27,000 in May 2024, which is up from the 33,000. So it did a dip. It went from 33,000 in May 2023 down to 27,000 in May 2024, and then back up to 33,000 searches a month for Powerade. Something happened in 2024. Right? We saw it here. We saw it with Gatorade, and now we're seeing it here. Something happened in 2024. This is Body Armor, which is also owned by Coke. And you see, to a lesser extent, that same dip off in January 2024. Their search volume doesn't dip off because they're a newer brand and they're still building out their brand. So there's just more room for them to grow. So their search volume actually went up between 2024 and 2025, but I wouldn't look at that. I'm going to skip that. What I would look at is qualify this. What are people actually searching for around this brand? Now that we know there's a problem with the sports drink industry, what's the nature of the problem? And it's right there in your keyword research data. Gatorade, the top question about Gatorade, is it good for you? The top question about Powerade, is Powerade good for you? They're all like that, by the way. Is it good for you? There's something about it being like health concern and the sports drink industry, which is a problem. We're going to explore it in a second. But I'm going to show you the disruptor. We saw that traffic go down. This is vitamin water, which is also owned by Coke. By the way, Gatorade is owned by Pepsi. This is insane. Coke has 3 different... You're going to see how crazy it gets what the Coke is doing. It's bonkers and horrible. In January, you could see that their branded traffic goes up. As opposed to Gatorade or Powerade, it goes up. And guess when it goes up? It goes up, all of a sudden, boop, boop. It just appears on the graph at the same exact time as Gatorade and Powerade went down. Right here. That's what all of a sudden it shows up. Vitamin water was a disruptor. Vitamin water all of a sudden started to rank for things or build up its brand, and less people were searching for Gatorade and more people were searching for vitamin water. How do I even know? Because the whole page is new. This is called the Wayback Machine. It's internetarchive.org, I think is the URL. You just Google Wayback Machine, and it will show you previous versions of what the web page looked like. It's an invaluable tool. It's super cool. What it's showing you here is that the first time this page ever appears is in 2024. It's a new page. It's what caused the disruption in the market. Okay, you could see, by the way, that unlike the other brands, for the most part, vitamin water's search volume goes up. 50,000 people search for it for the term vitamin water in 2025. Same as 2024, but that's up 9,000 since 2023. That's completely different pattern than any of the other brands. But it still has the same problem. The top keyword is vitamin water good for you? We just stumbled into, and when I did this, I ran this as an audit. We just stumbled into, I didn't find this first on the data first, the two biggest problems facing the entire industry. CNBC ran a story when, there's that year again, 2024, saying that Gatorade's entering new categories of products because their market, the sports drink market, just got hyper competitive. We already saw that it got hyper competitive. We just saw vitamin water pop out of nowhere. We already knew that. We just used data to figure out what was already happening in the industry before we even had to go do this. We also figured out, and this is coming from like the Beverage Industries Journal or industry publication, sports drinks are embracing everyday wellness. Hell yeah, they are, because everyone's searching for, is it good for you? We also already knew this. If I didn't see these articles, I already would have known this about the industry just using the data. And there's correlation every time. If I type, what should I know about Gatorade? It's got high sugar content. That's from Google's AI overviews. If I go to Google's AI mode, not everyone should drink it. It's got a lot of sugar in it. ChatGPT tells me, it's got a lot of sugar in it. Maybe you don't want to drink this thing. Every time there is a brand issue or an industry issue, the LLMs will pick up on it because, as I said before, the LLMs are looking at the entire web presence and sort of like synopsis, putting together a synopsis or serving as a proxy for it. So what does Gatorade do? You'd figure they talk about health, right? Like, if I was Gatorade and I saw this, the first thing on my homepage would be like, let's show you that we're really healthy. The first thing they do is sell water bottles. By the way, I did a Control F for health. It appears 0 times on the Gatorade homepage. They sell like their chews. The quick energy, bold flavor, nothing about health. The closest thing you get is like in the product, like on the label, it says caffeine free, which is like one of the questions about Gatorade is that have caffeine in it. Maybe they do it on their YouTube page. Nope. It's just Nike kind of videos, but like, lots of big athletes and whatever, which, by the way, if you dive deeper into it, no one actually believes that these people drink Gatorade, which is a whole different question for a different time. I actually asked Google's AI mode, which is healthier, Gatorade or vitamin water? Because again, vitamin water was a market disruptor. We saw that. It's unbelievable. Okay. AI mode, the LLM is telling me, for general hydration, you should drink vitamin water. It's a better choice. Okay. The LLMs are actively telling me for casual drinking, you should drink vitamin water, not Gatorade. And Gatorade's still not doing anything because Gatorade isn't looking at this data that we looked at. And they are completely clueless. If you read the CNBC article, I'll share the link if I can. I gotta find it. They're completely clueless. They think they're doing a great job, by the way. Clearly not. You think, okay, so vitamin water, they came in, they disrupted it, they know what's going on, they know that's a health thing. By the way, their other brand, Coke's other brand, Body Armor, tries to be healthy and show you that it's healthy. You figure vitamin water would. It's got the word vitamin in it. It's got to be healthy. They've been leaning to health. Nope. Nothing on their YouTube. In fact, their whole marketing is, we're from New York. Buy our drink. I'm from New York. Please open your wallets and pay me. That's their marketing. That's Coke's marketing. I promise you. Go to the vitamin water website, which is part of the Coke website, and they're telling you to drink vitamin water because it's from New York. If anybody's from New York, the Hudson River is floating with like dead bodies. Like healthy water and New York do not go together in my mind. That is like bonkers marketing. Which, by the way, don't follow the big brands right now. They're in big problem. They have big problems. The next thing you can do with this kind of data is benchmark awareness and qualify health. So one of the great things that Gatorade does do is Gatorade does do a really good job at marketing its different products. And when you go into what people are searching for and visiting the Gatorade website about using the branded search data in SEMrush, I can see people are looking for and visiting. 26,000 people visited the Gatorade website after searching for Gatorade flavors, Gatorade water bottle, Gatorade powder, Gatorade pods, Gatorade protein bars. I didn't even know they offered protein bars. It's very diverse. People are very aware of Gatorade's full product offering, which is different. Let's say Liquid Death, which is like water in a can, which I still don't understand. They offer, which I didn't know, a huge array of products. It's not as diverse, and they're not doing yet as good of a job being people aware of their products yet. And you can see that right in the branded search data. A lot of the products are just not here. I'll give you another example of what you can do. And I promise we'll get to your question in like a minute. This is FanDuel's branded traffic. Okay, they rank for 88,000 keywords with their brand name in it, and it pulls in 1.1 million visitors a month. Out of that, 2.5% of it has to do with the word service, as in customer service, as in, please get me customer service. Can I call customer service? I need customer service right now. I want my money back. That's traffic and keywords that you don't want. 2.5% of its total branded traffic are about the word customer service. And that's just one term, one negative term. To give you some context, Walmart, 0.61% of it is related to customer service. 0.61% is branded traffic. To be fair, we would have to benchmark FanDuel against another competitor in the same niche. But just to give you a context, how much skepticism there is around FanDuel, a huge amount of its branded traffic is around customer service. The other thing you can do is gauge brand versus product interest using this data. So I mentioned it before. I mentioned it really quickly, and we saw it with Wingstop. For Adidas, a lot of its keywords that people are searching for that they're visiting the website are about the product. Do Adidas run big or small? How to clean Adidas? Same for Nike. But Nike has a lot more keywords about its brand. How did Nike get started? What's the story about Nike? How did Nike sign Michael Jordan? They did a whole movie about it. That shows you that one of these companies has a brand that people are interested in, and the other one has a product people are interested in. You want to be a brand people are interested in. You can see that right in the branded search data. The last thing you could do, the last thing I'll talk about doing is you can gauge brand maturity. I love this picture here. You can look at SEMrush and pull in, this looks a little bit different now because they just released an update and they pulled a screenshot before they released the update, sorry. You can pull the traffic sources, and FanDuel saw a decline in direct traffic and it tried to compensate with referral traffic. Referral traffic is for newer websites who are trying to start out. Referral traffic is not what you should rely on as a brand. It's a double vulnerability. You're relying on the website that you're hosting, that is hosting you, and the medium. So if I'm like, for example, if FanDuel's on an affiliate website, FanDuel's relying on that affiliate website for the referral traffic. They're also relying on Google to give that referral traffic to that website. It's a double vulnerability. It's not what you want. They also did more paid at the same time. A good brand, let's say DraftKings, who is, it's funny them saying they're a good brand, who is FanDuel's main competitor, also saw the same declines and same stagnation. They didn't go for referral traffic. They did a brand campaign. They did a whole campaign about it's okay to lose when you're betting. And they did a whole campaign about like just regular people, like with people who look like literally the guy I used to buy pizza from when I was 14, literally yelling at a screen, hey, get the guy out of there. Like it's for like, I literally currently yell at my screen. They did a whole brand campaign and it totally paid off. And I'm going to show you how it paid off. This is again in the AI analytics and SEMrush. I'm done in a minute so I can answer your questions, I promise. What you're looking at is FanDuel on the left, DraftKings on the right. Forget like market share, they're both around the same mark. I mean, they're both have the same visibility as each other in LLMs. DraftKings sentiment, meaning LLMs aren't talking smack about DraftKings, they're talking more smack about FanDuel, because FanDuel sentiment is 49% positive in ChatGPT. DraftKings is 62%. 5 months ago, 5 months ago, 3 months ago, when I first looked at this, it was the opposite. DraftKings had a much lower sentiment in ChatGPT, and FanDuel had a much higher one in ChatGPT. Same, by the way, in SearchGPT, right? DraftKings is still has a higher sentiment of 69 versus FanDuel's. It's across the board. By the way, the whole issue with FanDuel and customer service, if we saw that a lot of their traffic is to their website is about customer service, LLMs picked right up on it. One of the areas for improvement, customer service and withdrawal. I told you, what happens on the internet plays itself out in the LLMs. There's no way around it. Gatorade, by the way, to show you where they're at, their sentiment is 48%. A sports gambling app has a better sentiment than Gatorade does in LLMs. That's how bad Gatorade is off of the right now. And just to end, but they're really messed up. Okay? Super messed up. Most of the sports betting apps have a sentiment score in the 60 percentile, positive sentiment of 60%. Most of the sports drinks are lower than 50%. Sports drink, the whole industry is in a health crisis right now. And as we saw, no one's dealing with it. And that's why this data is so important, so you can get ahead of it. Because marketing is about not missing those opportunities. Just come full circle. Okay, now that DraftKings started to pick up and get on its reputation and do a brand campaign, when I asked AI mode, hey, which is better now, this says recent trends. DraftKings has been closing the gap with FanDuel. I told you it all plays out in LLMs. The reality of the internet, you can't escape it. It's not about optimization. It's about getting that brand presence right across the internet because that's what shows up in LLMs. And now I'm done.